This summer, I decided that I wanted to upgrade my outdoor seating area. This was the vibe I was going for, but I really wasn't excited about this price tag associated with it. So I decided to DIY it and build it myself. This video, I'm going to show you how I built the couch. I also have another video on the chair. So if you are interested and you want to save a couple grand, follow along. Okay, first things first is you're gonna need to go and pick out your lumber. Of course, you can use a more expensive wood like cedar, redwood, oak. I was trying to do this for as cheap as possible, so I just went with pine. And just letting you know that I load all of my lumber in the back of my Jeep by laying my seats down. It's probably not the safest thing, but just proof that you really can do DIY projects if you get creative and put your mind to it. Now, I wish I was talented enough to be able to come up with plans for this on my own, but I am not. And so I followed building plans from the Woodshop Diaries. I'm going to link her website below. I purchased the couch, chair, as well as the coffee table plans. She has the exact measurements that you need and a step-by-step guide. But this video, I'm just going to really show you how I followed that because there was a lot I had to figure out that I wouldn't have been able to pick up from the plans. So I started by cutting out the 4x4 pieces, which are the base of the couch as well as the chair. And then I gave it a really good sanding. I don't have one of those wood stripper machines, but if you do, that would be way easier. But otherwise, you're gonna need to do this with each of your wood cuts. In order for this project to be successful, you are going to need to make sure that your cuts are exactly the same, making sure that everything's perfectly symmetrical, and taking the time to do that is going to just help you in the long run. So be slow enough to make sure that they are perfect, even if you have to sand down a tiny bit of one side, it's worth it. A couple things that I did have to purchase for this project, though, that I didn't already have, were these Craig jig sets. So I bought an extra large one in order to do the holes in the pocket holes in the 4x4s, as well as the one sitting up on the table there that you can do just your basic 2x4s and any other smaller wooden. But I love these things, you guys, and now I just want an excuse to do pocket holes all the time. So look out, world, I'm gonna be dangerous. Okay, but going back to the project, once you have all your pieces cut out, everything sanded exactly the same, then you're gonna do extra large pocket holes in the very bottom piece, which actually ends up being the armrest of the couch. After quite a bit of trial and error on this project, I figured out that the easiest way and the best way to do this is to allow the wood glue to dry. And just FYI, a little bit of wood glue goes a long ways. But allowing the pieces to dry together makes it so that it's super easy to put those 4-inch pocket hole wood screws in. My first chair I built, I didn't use wood glue at all, and I just don't think that it turned out near as well as the one where I did use wood glue. But I also learned to allow the wood glue to dry first, because on some of this, I put the wood glue on and then I just immediately put the pocket hole screws in, and it makes it so the wood pieces are pretty wiggly. I know I need to get some wood clamps, but I didn't have any, didn't want to have to run to the store, so I just had to be really careful to make sure that the pieces were aligned perfectly. But so much easier just to allow it to dry. It's nice and secure, and then you just fully secure it with those pocket hole screws. Now that you have the legs built, it's time to build the inside portion of the leg, and I would argue that this is one of the most difficult pieces in the project because you miter it at a 4-degree and a 24-degree angle in order to be able to fit it on the inside of that, and it's really important that both sides are exactly the same because that's what you're going to hook the bench slats to. I also forgot to mention that you will need to do regular size pocket holes in the 2x4, and you'll need to do this for the bench slats as well. That is why I love this Craig set that I bought. You just hook it in and then go ahead and drill your holes, pop it out, and you're good to go. So I'm going to be making all sorts of things with this jig set. Once those inside pieces have dried with the wood glue, then I used 2.5-inch pocket hole outdoor wood screws, and we are moving on to the backs of the couch. This is another important part of the project, to make sure that they are exactly the same on each side, because that is what your back supports are going to secure into. I got both sections where I wanted them to be, and then I allowed the wood glue to dry before securing them all the way. This is just a good video reference to show kind of what you want to shoot for, making sure that the angle is exactly the same on both sides of the couch. In order to secure this correctly, I went ahead and drilled some pilot holes, and then I used 4.5-inch regular wood screws to secure the back post of each side of the couch. And then one final thing that you have to do for each side is to do a 2x2, and you want to make sure that you are able to fit a 2x4 because that is what the back slats that you lean against are going to secure into. I used a small drill bit in order to do a pilot hole in 3 different sections, and then just secured these by using a 2.5-inch wood screw. Okay, we are moving on to the center support section of the couch. This portion is pretty easy. We just need 2 2x4 sections with pocket holes, and then we secure those into a piece of the 4x4. This piece is going to be the bottom front section of the couch. Because the 2x4 sections are kind of long, it was a little awkward to secure with the pocket screws. I had to put a little body weight into it just to make sure that it squared up perfectly, but got her done. And now it is time to start securing both of the arms onto this couch. So for this section, I used some of my patio chairs in order to prop up both of the legs of the couch. And then I set the middle section down so that I could hook one end in before hooking the other one in. Ideally, you would be building this on a pretty flat surface. This is just the best that I can do. So I used my level to make sure that I was putting both pieces on accurately. But if you built them symmetrically, then you should be able to mark where you're putting it on in the chair, and it's going to take care of itself as far as being level. Now that the couch is really taking shape, this piece is super easy. You just secure a 2x4 with pocket hole screws into the very back. That is going to be the very back section that you sit on the couch. So just FYI on that. And we are going to flip that over and then secure one more piece into the couch. This is going to be the first section of the back slats. In order to do this and keep it level, I just put some of my scrap pieces of wood in, and then this is where you just secure it with 2.5-inch regular wood screws into the 2x2 that you put on that back support. And this is also just another reminder, I think it's good to cut your pieces out as you go, because if you do it all at the beginning, then it's probably not going to work out correctly. So I am measuring and cutting each piece out as I go. And I give you that warning because I then did the middle support section based on the measurements in the building plans. Well, if you are off even a little bit or things don't secure exactly how she did them, then your measurements are going to be off. So I went ahead and built that entire support section, and it was short by like 1 or 2 inches. And it just didn't fit. So I ended up having to completely rebuild it and redo that section so that it would work. This piece was actually kind of frustrating and difficult, so I would follow her plans, but measure on your own couch because you have to bevel some of the section, but it's really just 2 pieces of 2x4 secured into a tiny piece of 4x4, and that gives the middle of the couch support so that if you have a bunch of weight sitting on it, it's not going to collapse in. Okay, we are now through all of the hard stuff and we're on the home stretch. For these final pieces, I measured them once it was all put together and then cut them out one by one, just because if you're to do it in the beginning, sometimes things can be off even just a 1/2 inch, which is going to screw up the piece altogether. So I would suggest waiting until it is built in order to cut out these final pieces. For the slats that you lean against, you just secure those with a regular 2.5-inch screw into the 2x2 that you put into each of the legs. And then for the slats that you sit on, you will need to do pocket holes for those. And then I just went and lined them up. I did mark them so that I kind of had a general idea of what was even, and then secured one side when it was flipped up and then flipped it over to the other side and went through and secured those. Now this part of the project didn't look exactly perfect, and it's because it is really difficult to get boards at the store that are perfectly straight. So There is a little bit of variability in between them, but I'm going to be putting cushions on these, and so you're not going to see that. And it's a DIY couch, right? Like we're saving a few $1,000s by doing it ourselves, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So then for the final step, I decided to go with a semi-transparent stain from Bear. The color is called Redwood Cedar, and you can actually do sample sizes from Home Depot for about $5. I did this and tested it on a couple of scrap pieces of wood so that I made sure to get the color that I definitely wanted. Some people stain the pieces of wood before. I just don't see how I could do that because I always was having to make slight adjustments to the pieces, so I did it afterwards. And for the grand reveal, this is the final product. Sorry about the weird lighting, it's just what my house does with the shade in the afternoon, but I love the way that they turned out. This is what it looks like with the cushions on, which just makes it look so high end. So for us, we will be enjoying the rest of this summer in the backyard on our new furniture. Let me know if you have any questions and good luck, guys.